Okay, this is Lester Levenson on having a perfect body. Now, is it necessary to have a perfect body? No, it's not. However, it is necessary to have a perfect understanding. To get this understanding, go beyond the necessity of a perfect body by getting the spiritual understanding of, I am not the body, and the body does not affect me. This is a much higher state. In fact, this is one of the highest states to be able to maintain your equanimity regardless of what is happening to the body. This body is not infinite. It is an extremely limited vehicle and very, very delicate. Change the internal temperature 12 degrees and it dies. Put tiny amounts of chemicals, poisons in it, and it dies. Cut out oxygen and it dies. So this body is an extremely limited vehicle. It's much better to not be the physical body, to be what you really are, and get out from under the fear of death, the basic fear behind all other fears. The discipline of having an imperfect body and not allowing it to bother you is a very high spiritual discipline. Many fully realized masters go through life with a sick body, setting an example of non-emphasis on the body, because the body is a cage of limitation. We are not the body, but the body is in us. Our greatest limitation is, I am this body. Not only is the body a limitation, but it's also associated with hundreds of other limitations. And then Lester goes on to tell a couple of stories where one time he slipped a disc in his back and it was excruciatingly painful. But when he remembered that he was not the physical body, he'd recognize the pain and he'd say, oh, I am not the body. And then he'd stand up and he'd move through the day as though his body were okay. And then his body could do anything and everything. And yet he said there was a weak, distant pain that I knew was there, but it didn't bother me. And he says this type of disciplining is excellent if one can do it. Be not the body. And he also tells a story of a man who was confined to a wheelchair for about a decade. And the man's house caught on fire. And he jumped up and he packed 2 suitcases and he ran outside. And he plopped down, he sat down on the suitcases. And it was only then that he realized what he had done. He was so in the moment, he was so present and in the moment and focused when the house caught on fire and what he had to do to save himself, to save his physical body, that he had literally forgotten that he couldn't walk. I love that. He'd forgotten that he couldn't walk. He was so present in that moment. I think that's a really great illustration to remember. So this is from the book, The Way to Complete Freedom, Sessions with a Master on Personal Transformation by Lester Levenson. And it's published by Larry Crane Enterprises of the Release Technique, and I'll put a link up with this video. And what I just read is from a session that was recorded in Sedona, Arizona on October 31st, 1964. So until next time, peace and blessings.